The podcast.
And we're live. Welcome to the podcast. Today we are going to be speaking with Dan O'Connell. Firstly, how are you, Felix?
I'm good, yeah. And how are you, John?
I'm fantastic. Dan O'Connell, how are you getting on?
I'm getting on quite well. Thanks for asking, Joe.
You're very welcome, sir. So today's segment is going to be called Doc's Orders. It's not going to be called, it is called Doc's Orders. So in this segment, we are going to dig deep into what ticks Dan's life. I don't think that makes sense, but we'll roll with it. And Dan is going to, prescribe, as it were, several things that he finds helpful to make him lead a more peaceful, happier life, which might help other people live a likewise life. Okay, so if anyone isn't picking up on the Doc and the Dan O'Connell thing, it's just his initials. And on that note, I'll hand it over to you. Doc, what are your orders?
My orders. So basically, since the lockdown started back in March, I felt like the main ways that keep me going and keep me happy is a few things. I like listening to music. Lots of people do. That's not unusual. I like being outdoors. I like, walking through nature and that kind of thing. And I like working with my hands and that kind of thing. And those are probably like the main points that keep me going. Wonderful. When I can't do stuff like meeting my friends and that kind of thing.
Wonderful. So will we go into each kind of section that you just outlined one by one? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me. Does it work for you?
Oh, it works fantastically for me. Does it work for you, Felix?
Oh, it works perfectly.
Then I guess we're all in agreement. So, Dan O'Connell, what Doc's orders do you have for us music-wise this week?
Well, basically, it's just getting to know what kind of music you like. So I found there was a website called obscurifymusic.com, and it kind of you link it to your Spotify, and it gives you stats on what kind of music you like listening to. So I put mine in, and it came back, and it said that I like more acoustic music and that kind of thing, and it said on average for the people from Ireland that it was it looked at as well. It compared me to, it was less kind of dance and that kind of thing, and less energy, but acoustic. And information like that can just help when you're making your playlists or whatever, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just having that knowledge, and I wouldn't have said that myself, but when it tells me, then I saw that on the website, and I was in agreement. It was it made perfect sense to me.
It pinned you down. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. And has there been any tunes in particular that you've been particularly fond of the past few days, weeks, months, whatever? Or artists?
Recently, I've been kind of listening to Christmas music, as you'd expect. Naturally. But since we're after Christmas now, I've been looking at I was trying to listen to some new artists, and there's another website which I'll talk about in a second, which helps you find new artists. And then tomorrow, my big plan was Paul McCartney has a new album out, which I haven't gotten to listen to yet.
Yeah.
It's gone to number 1 in England, I think. So
right.
I'm going to sit down tomorrow and give that a whole listen to all the way through.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. A good album listen is good as well. You don't always have to be listening to playlists.
This is it.
Sitting down and listening to an album all the way through is good.
Yeah. And so just to go back to what you were saying there, just for the sake of the listener, at the time of recording, it's just after Christmas. So that is the time space that we're in right now. Sorry, Felix, fire ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just about to ask, how does do you have different, you said there the acoustic music was your favorite or the type you listen to the most, but would that depend, say, on your, would you listen to acoustic music to get yourself into a more relaxed mood, say if you were tense, or do you use music in a way that takes a tense mood and kind of relaxes you? Or is it more that you just listen to music throughout the day for entertainment and enjoyment?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, Felix. Thanks. It was, for me, I know lots of people listen to music based on what kind of like mood they're in. They'll listen to like sad or like slower music if they're feeling down or happy or more energetic. But I think for me it's just kind of um I just listen to happy music more often. Like I tend not to listen to sad music or like, well, like think about it. Like I don't sit down and like, oh, this is the kind of mood I'm in, I'm gonna listen to sad music. For me it's just kind of like the music I like, I listen to. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't tend to be in any way I'm feeling. I do feel I listen to quieter stuff when I'm, say, studying and that kind of thing. So it would be more acoustic and stuff like that. Whereas if I'm just listening to it, it could be like electric or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that you were talking about is a good album listen. So one guy that immediately comes to mind when you say that is Mr. Mike Posner. Mr. I took a pill on Ibiza, Mike Posner. So he's kind of he's a reformed man nowadays. He's kind of had a renaissance, like kind of Kanye, because his father died, and he wrote an album called A Real Good Kid. And the idea of the album is it just tells a story about his kind of the wake of his father dying and the build up to it. And what he kind of requests at the start of the album is that you listen to it all the way through with undivided attention, at least on the first try. And I did so, and it was actually like such an engaging experience. And the reason why he came to mind is because only a few weeks ago he released a second album called Operation Wake Up, which has the same kind of instructions. You listen to it once all the way through, no interruptions. And that kind of like experience I find is really it's so like just relaxing to just kind of give undivided attention to one thing. But so that's just two things that came into my head there: Operation Wake Up and A Real Good Kid by Mike Posner. Sorry, back to you, Dan.
No, yeah, like I feel like there's a lot of effort that goes into sequencing albums anyway. Like the artist spends so much time figuring out what order to put the music in and what way it works best. And obviously you're allowed to do whatever you want and listen to the music however you want, but I think you should definitely spend time listening to your favorite artists, listening to their albums just all the way through, because they were made with the intention that was the order they should be listened in. And obviously, like, there is a good listening experience to just sitting down and doing nothing other than maybe drinking a coffee and just listening to music.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any kind of albums that you listen to that you would recommend, that kind of listening to in one go, no interruptions, in order?
Personally, I do listen to Fleetwood Mac Rumors. That's one I've listened to multiple times all the way through. Paolo Nutini, Sunny Side Up. A couple of the Beatles albums I've definitely listened to all the way through. The White Album, Let It Be, Abbey Road, listen to them all the way through.
Yeah, class. Yeah, there's a lot of good names in there. A lot of good album names. So okay, I think we'll leave the music behind for now, and we'll go into our second prescription. What is that second prescription, Dan?
Being outdoors. Being outdoors, I think, is just such an excellent thing. The whole lockdown and stuff, there hasn't been a day, I don't think, when I stayed inside the entire time, because probably not after the first week anyway, because it's just not being able to get out in fresh air is just something I can't, like, I just can't do it. It's, for me, I don't live in the city, but I don't live out in the countryside either. So it's quite easy for me just to go on a walk, you know, and I feel like that's important, just for my own mental health and being able to think and stuff. Just being able to go out for, you know, an hour or two, just walking around through the local forest or just going for a walk. And I feel like a lot of people don't do it nowadays as much, like with the weather or whatever during the winter.
Definitely.
But it's still a necessity, I think, for people's mental health to just be able to get out in nature and just get a bit of fresh air.
Absolutely.
Dan, I have a question for you. So, do going on walks and music, do they happen simultaneously, or do you choose to go on a walk and just bring no technology with you? Or do you go and listen to, say, an album the full way through while you're walking?
That is a good question. For me, I don't. I'll make a decision before I leave the house if I'm gonna listen to music while I'm on my walk, or if I'm gonna bring my camera. And if I'm bringing the camera, it's kind of more I'm focused and like focused on taking pictures, and it's
focus on your surroundings. Let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm listening to music, it's going to be like background music, and I won't really be listening to an album all the way through. It's not kind of that experience that I'll be looking for. It's just something that in the background, and then I'll be thinking about other stuff while I'm on the walk then.
Yeah, no, because something I was just thinking is when you walk through town, let's say, you see a lot of people going for walks, but they have their earphones in. And like you said, you can choose to listen to music how you want or how to live your life how you want. But it seems to me that if you go for a walk, it's like part of it is like engaging with the world around you, you know, like cutting out all technology, all the kind of stimuli that you kind of use during the day, and just letting yourself be almost like one with nature. Would you say that's one of the benefits, or is one better than the other in your opinion, or are they both equal kind of choices to make?
I think they're both equal enough. Like it's fair enough. Lots of people like bringing their music with them because like in the city anyway, like there's a lot of noise, and it'd be like it could be people like shouting or whatever, or like other people chatting away, and that's not really what you want to hear when you're trying to focus on yourself or whatever when you're going out for your walk. So listening to music is a way to shut yourself off from the noise. But if you do want to be more in touch with your surroundings and like see, if you're in the city, see the city life and see what other people are doing, not listening to music would be the way to go. And the same for in the country. If you're like walk through the countryside or a village or whatever, and you're looking to experience what's going on there, then definitely not listening to music would be the way to go. Whereas if you're just going on a walk to think about what's going on with you and reflect on your own life, I feel like listening to music just as a background to that is quite helpful.
That's a very good way of looking at it. I'd concur.
Yeah, definitely. So you've gotten big into the kind of zero technology walks these days, Felix, haven't you? And do you find it beneficial?
Yeah, I do find it beneficial. Like I'd walk not for like a huge amount of time, but I'm trying to get up earlier, because I've realized that my sleep schedule tends to be go to sleep late, wake up late, you know. And what I've realized is I spend a lot of my time in the dark, especially when the night gets dark at around 4 in the afternoon now, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for living your life with more daylight, you know?
Definitely.
And it's when you go for a walk, I know both of you will definitely agree with me on this. When you go for a walk in the morning, the crisp air does something better. It can wake you up better. You're more ready for the day, more energized than any cup of coffee could, you know?
Definitely.
And it's just,
100%.
It's a different kind of buzz you get.
Yeah, same can be said for an early morning swim in the ocean.
Ooh, then it's just,
it's savagely cold, and it makes you alert and awake just immediately, and then you just set up for the day. So look, we'll leave that little prescription behind us. I think that was a very noteworthy one. Anyways, that's definitely I'd hop on board that recommendation. I'd hop on board that doc orders. So, all right, into our third prescription. Is this our last one, or do you have more for us, Dan?
I think this would be our last one.
Lovely stuff.
Um,
Fire
for
away.
me, the last thing I love doing is like working with my hands. So, John, as you know quite well, during the first lockdown, I started making little bits and pieces out of wood, just little carvings and stuff. You got yourself a necklace from your favorite film,
I did indeed.
uh, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
That's the one.
Um, and I love making things with my hands. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to be loving making things with their hands, but I feel like something that people have to do as often as they can is just something they really enjoy doing that is completely separate from everything else that's they've got going on. So for me, it's like the little woodworking, and it's moved on to jewelry making now that I'm trying to make rings. It's completely separate to what I'm doing in college and what I'm spending my time, studying and all the rest. It's apart from that, and it's just my own little thing that I've got on the side. And I think when I'm doing that, it's not so much of like, oh, I want to like make things for people or whatever. I'm just like, again, it's like going on the walks. It's just a time where I'm just sitting there thinking and working with your hands in particular. It's like getting a finished product that you've made from scratch.
Yeah,
Is just a great feeling,
definitely. And do you have much equipment to do this stuff? Do you have a workshop or anything?
I've got a wee garage, and basically the stuff, the main bit of equipment I use is a little Dremel multi-tool with a few different attachments on it, and like a drill and a saw, and like there's not much that you need to go into it. You could do it without the Dremel, but it certainly makes life a lot easier.
Yeah,
So you can start doing stuff with the minimum amount of equipment that you need. You don't need to be spending hundreds of euros on fancy equipment and lots of shiny things. It's just an old drill and a saw and some sandpaper and a chisel, and you can probably get your way through it.
yeah.
Would
That
you
can be
say,
said for a
Dan?
lot of things.
Yeah, I was just about to say, would you concur that doing things with less investment actually reaps a more satisfying feeling at the end?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about there, Dan. You're not using this really fancy equipment. You're just getting there. You're using pure determination, and you're making, say, a ring or a necklace, basically with your own two hands. You
Yeah.
know, and would you say that would actually, would you suggest to someone that they specifically shouldn't go in and buy all this fancy equipment, and they should really just start from the ground up if they were looking to get satisfaction out of it?
I think what I would recommend if someone's starting out on something like that, like my interest in woodworking started back when I was like 9 or 10 or something, and I made two birdhouses, one for our house and one for my granddad's house. And since then, it's just been like working with my hands, and that kind of thing has been a hobby of mine. So it's like last year when I started doing the jewelry the ring making and the necklaces, it was kind of, I already knew where to start from and I had a few tools. But if you're starting from scratch in a new hobby, for sure, I would say only buy the bare minimum. Like, don't go out and spend loads of money. Spend a small amount. See how much you actually enjoy it. Because if you enjoy it a lot with the small amount of equipment that you have, then by all means invest more money into it and get more enjoyment out of it.
And it'll be worthwhile. Just on this note, I think I was talking to you about this guy a few weeks ago, Dan. Yvon Chouinard is the name of this man. He's the founder of Patagonia, the clothing brand. And he likes to live a simple life, and he's written two or three books. one of which is on fly fishing, which is something he's very passionate about. He's a man like yourself who he really is an advocate for being outdoors, and I think Patagonia reflects that as a company, being very environmentally friendly. But he wrote a book on fly fishing called Simple Fly Fishing, and I was watching kind of a little video about it, and his basic kind of the way he goes about it is like, he says you can have all this fancy fishing equipment, but all you really need is a stick, bait, and wire, and knowledge. And the quote that he kind of sums it up with, which I think is a fantastic quote to finish on for today, is the more you know, the less you need, which I think is really good, because like it's really true. Would you boys agree with that?
Yeah, I love that quote, John.
Yeah, it's really good. So like, I think that's a good note to finish on for today. I enjoyed that a lot. So thanks very much, Dan, for coming on.
Thank you, Dan.
No
do you have
worries.
any other last orders that you'd like to leave us with, or you're all wrapped up?
Well, just in terms of the outdoors and making stuff and doing stuff with your hands, I would recommend, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I'd recommend a guy called Bo Miles. He has a PhD in outdoor education. Before I heard of him, I didn't know that was a thing. So yeah, he's just got a website, Bo Miles, BEAU miles.com, and he just does stuff like kayaking around the southern tip of Africa and making a paddle for kayaking out of a bunch of wood he found on the side of the road. So he's a really interesting guy.
Definitely, yeah.
Good.
You introduced me to him, Dan, and to be honest, it's well worth the watch. He has a YouTube account and he puts up really interesting videos. Like, he made his wife a kind of shelter out of just scrap wood that he had lying around the house, or scrap timber. So yeah, I definitely hop on board that recommendation as well. So Felix, do you have any last questions for Dan while we still have him in our presence?
No, I feel like I've gotten a prescription on how to lead a more relaxed life.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, Dan, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Hope to have you on again soon in the future with a more updated prescription, and in the wake of you listening to McCartney 3.
Oh, yes, of course.
All right. I guess we'll leave it there. So the more you know, the less you need. Thanks, Dan O'Connell. This has been
Thank you very much, Dan.
Doc's Orders with Dan O'Connell.